Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another JWB webinar. My name is Kyle Brown. I'm a Senior Account Manager with JWB. And today we're going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes to avoid when investing in cash flow properties. So clearly with what we do, we're very passionate about real estate and get to spend a lot of time talking to other people that share that passion and learning from mistakes they've made, learning from mistakes that we've made, and we love being able to share this information with our clients and other people that share the passion that we do for real estate. So today we're just going to go in and talk about some of the mistakes that we've found that are very common, that can have a big impact on your bottom line, and hope that we can help you to learn to do it the right way in your real estate pursuits. We're going to break each of these topics down, but to give you an overview on what it is that you want to avoid, the first thing is doing it all yourself. Real estate is truly a team sport. Number 2, buying in high-end and low-end neighborhoods. There are specific areas within the market where this model works. Number 3, renovating for WOW Factor. It's a common conversation we have with our clients and something you want to make sure you think about as you're putting work into rehabbing a property. Number 4, assuming all markets work for cash flow. It is not a coincidence that we have clients that are all over the country and all over the world that invest in Jacksonville. This market here is perfect, but it's not the case everywhere. And then number 5, dabbling in too many ventures out of the gate. So as opposed to being pretty good at a lot of different things, you want to really be an expert at one thing and be the best at it, especially when you're just getting started. So the first thing, the first mistake, and this is a common mistake that many people make, doing it all yourself. As I said, real estate truly is a team sport. And, you know, I think about the conversations I have with many of our clients, and actually there's a new client of ours, his name's Scott, that has known us for years and knows some of the owners of the company, went to school with them, been friends with us and followed us and been interested in our company and doing business with us for years. But what Scott thought was that he was going to go and do it himself. So he was going to learn enough about how to do it and go out and do it himself. And in his spare time, you know, time off from work, he would spend hours and hours, you know, scouring different listings and going and viewing properties and visiting homes, and did this for a couple of years. And when I talked to him recently and he actually joined us and became a client, he grew tired of it. It was too much for him to be able to handle it all himself. And so even though he had the intentions to do that, he was more comfortable devoting his time to his family, to his career, and ended up buying 3 properties from us and letting us handle it because it was just too much for one person. So again, it is a team sport. That team, if you think about, you know, the different positions on a team, it's going to look different for every investor. So if you're somebody that likes to get their hands dirty and likes to do the rehab work themselves, you may not need those teammates on your team. But you're still going to need teammates to help you find a house or to get financing in order. You're still going to need teammates to do the property management and handle maintenance calls. So if you think about building your own team, the most important thing is making sure your team members' goals are aligned with your goals. You know, making sure that they're in it for the right reasons. Everybody is working together towards one objective and one goal, and you have a chance at that point to be successful. All right, the second mistake that you want to avoid when investing in cash flowing rental properties is buying in high-end and low-end neighborhoods. And I'll break down why the middle of the market is the best place for this model and for you as an investor. So let's think about a scale of 1 to 10. You've got 1 is absolutely the worst neighborhood you can think of. Around here we call those war zones. So just a very rough neighborhood. You don't feel safe. And then on the other end of the scale, a 10 is the best neighborhood. It's a gated community, oceanfront, waterfront, whatever it may be, but just a very high-end neighborhood where maybe all of us want to live ourselves. When you're focusing on investing in rental properties and cash flowing real estate, the best part of the market for you to play in is probably somewhere around a 3 to 6 on that scale. So it's middle class, blue collar neighborhoods where you can maximize the yield, maximize the cash flow, and it's basically the difference between your purchase price and what you can charge in rent on that property. So the middle of the market is where you want to play. On the low end, the reason you don't want to target the low end is because safety concerns, limited growth potential, increased maintenance and vacancy costs. So what looks good on paper day one typically doesn't materialize and doesn't actually turn out to be a good investment. We had a client, it's probably about 2 or 3 years ago now, and he was looking at 2 options. So one was he wanted to buy a house through our program with us. The home was about $85,000. It had a renter in place, so it was already cash flowing. And then the other opportunity that he had that he wanted to look at was a home in Detroit. And this home was for sale for $15,000. He had a connection through a realtor to get this home, and clearly it was not rented and in need of a good bit of work. So, we talked through it. He was real torn as to what direction he wanted to go. But at the end of the day, he could not walk away from what he thought was a no-brainer deal in Detroit. So he bought the house there. It's about $15,000, if I remember correctly, that he paid up front for the house. He expected a certain amount of renovation work to be done. But when I talked to him after about a year of this process, he had put in, over $55,000 into the house. So it ended up costing him more than what he thought it would on the rehab side. But still, if you're comparing one option to another, he's in it for about $70,000. He got the home rented. It took quite a while, but he was able to get it rented. But then after 2 months, he had to go and evict the tenant. So there was cost, obviously, with the eviction. The tenant did quite a bit of damage on the interior of the home to the tune of close to $10,000 that he had to put back into the property to get it ready to rent again. And so when I talked to him about, like 18 months or so after this whole thing started, we were talking again, and I had him just share with me how it went. And so, he was into the house for nearly the same amount of money, that $85,000 that he could have paid through our program. But he had only gotten 1 month worth of rent on the investment. So he kind of learned the hard way that the low end of the market, though the numbers may look really good, typically is not going to come to fruition and not going to work out as you expect. On the flip side, let's talk about the high end of the market. A lot of people, when they think about buying a rental property, they think emotionally, and they want to have a property that they would want to live in and have these, nice features and be in this really nice area. But the issue with that is, if you think about purchase price versus rent amount, there's a relationship there, but it's not linear. So as you increase your purchase price, the rent will increase to a certain point, and then it'll begin to level off. So if you've got a $100,000 home that, let's say it rents for $1,000 a month, that's good. That's a rent ratio of 1 or above. As you start to go up that scale, and let's say it's now a $400,000 home that you're considering purchasing, chances are you're not going to be able to rent that house for $4,000 a month. So you're going to dip below that ratio. You've also got to consider the fact that, taxes and insurance on a property that's more expensive are going to be higher as well. And so it just really limits your ability to actually capture excess cash flow as you go into these high-end neighborhoods. So again, play in the middle of the market. You can have a quality tenant. You can have a reasonable purchase price, and that's where you're going to maximize the yield and the return on your investment. Point number 3, renovating for wow factor. This is always a fun conversation to have with clients, and everybody's got a different viewpoint on this. An ideal client with us looks at this as an investment, and they understand that, if you're looking at these pictures here, that the kitchen on the top is a better investment than the kitchen on the bottom. It may look better on the bottom, but when you factor in the cost of those appliances, is it really going to get you that much more money in rent? Also, if you have to replace or repair them down the line, they're going to be more expensive to do so than the rental grade finishes and features in that first kitchen. So to be a great investor and really be able to have a successful investment in cash flowing real estate, you've got to be able to remove the emotions from the purchase. It is not your primary residence. You need to focus on what is necessary to get the home rented out. For me, I would much rather put money into a roof or an air conditioner or plumbing or electrical work on a house than to pay extra money for granite countertops or stainless steel appliances, because the home is still going to be able to get rented without those things. And by putting extra money into the major guts or major components of the house, I'm going to save myself money in the long run. I think about, when I'm talking about this, one of my favorite clients, Jerry, he's a guy that's been a client with us for a long time, and we went back and forth on this. He was hell-bent on putting in wood floors on a property he bought from us. And we talked back and forth, and I tried to tell him, Jerry, that's not a good idea. It's going to cost you 3 times the amount that it will for carpet. But he was just adamant about it. He wanted wood floors, and he thought that was going to help long-term with renting the house. He wouldn't have to replace the floors. He had his reasonings I did not agree with, but he won. And he put in wood floors in his house. And like I said, it cost about 3 times the amount as the carpet would have costed him. We were not able to get any more money in rent on the property, so he was not able to capture a return on that investment. And what ended up happening is after 3 years, he had the tenant move out, and we went back into the house to get it ready to rent again, and there was extensive damage to the wood floors that cost a good bit of money to repair. And at the end of the day, what ended up happening is pretty funny, but Jerry put down carpet above the wood floors because he just wanted to protect them and not have them get damaged any further, because the tenants don't take the same care that you would if it was your own home and your own floors. So focus on return on investment. In that situation, he did not get any return on investment on those wood floors, and at the end of the day ended up putting carpet in anyway. And it was because he was too emotionally attached to that purchase decision. And as I talked about earlier, the big ticket items are much more important. When we're doing a renovation, we want most of our money to go into the 4 big ticket items, which is the roof, the air conditioning system, the plumbing, and the electrical. And if we get those things right, you're still going to have maintenance costs when you own a piece of property. That's just reality. But by getting those things right, it's going to limit the major maintenance costs to our owners and allow them to have a successful investment. All right, so the 4th mistake that you want to avoid when you're investing in cash flowing real estate is assuming that all markets work for cash flow. This is simply not the truth, and I don't think it's any coincidence that we have investors from really all over the country, all over the world, that own properties here in Jacksonville. Jacksonville really is a perfect storm for this cash flow model. We've got purchase prices here that are about 27% below the national average. We've got rental prices that are about 3% above. So that spread between purchase price and rent amount is what allows us to capture cash flow for our investors. So when you're looking and trying to figure out the market for yourself to invest in, make sure you get out of your own backyard. You have to be comfortable investing at a distance and finding the right market. Look for those couple dynamics I mentioned. So lower than average purchase prices, higher than average rent amounts. A growing population is also very important. Jacksonville's market, there's a couple other markets in the country that have the same dynamics, but they're in the Midwest, and so the growth potential in those markets is little to none. And so you may be able to get cash flow on the properties day one, but over the long run, is there any growth potential? Is there any chance at appreciation? Think about that as a carrot on top when you identify your markets, and find one where you do have that long-term growth potential. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about is dabbling in too many ventures right out of the gate. Real estate is clearly very complex. And from my experience, as you go from a single-family home to a multifamily to commercial property, it gets more and more complex, from the financing component of things to the property management component to the lease options with your tenants, the regulations and standards that you have to abide by, taxes. I mean, the further you go up that scale, the more complex it is. And so for a first-time investor, a single-family residence is something that's very easy to understand. Most of us have either rented or owned a home of our own, and so we can relate to a single-family residence much easier than multifamily or commercial property. As you become more of an expert, then those strategies and those avenues can work very well. There's a lot of different ways to be successful in real estate, but make sure that you identify the strategy that you believe in and really focus on it. I think about restaurants a lot. I'm a big eater, but one of the things when I think about restaurants is, if you think about, let's say, Ruby Tuesdays, they've got everything under the sun on their menu, all kinds of choices. And, everybody's opinion is different, but to me, they have some good choices, but I wouldn't say anything is great. However, on the flip side, if you think about Ruth Chris, anytime you say that name, everyone identifies with, wow, they've got great steaks. So they don't have the variety of a Ruby Tuesdays, but what they do have, they're the best at, and people are willing to pay a premium for that. So when you figure out your strategy, don't try to be an expert on everything. Just really figure out what you can do better than anybody else and keep perfecting that, and you should have success in your investments. This last quote that I'll leave you with here is a good one by Warren Buffett, who is clearly a very successful investor and somebody that really believes in real estate. Warren has a lot of real estate holdings within his portfolio, has made a lot of money in real estate. And his quote here, it says, "Diversification is a hedge against ignorance." And so what this means to me is, if you don't really know a lot about what you're investing in, then you should probably diversify to protect yourself from making a mistake. But if you can be an expert on something and find something you really believe in and it works, then why would you want to do anything else? Really find what it is that you believe in and become an expert. And that's a great way to get started in any investment, especially within real estate. So again, these are tips that are meant to be high level. They're going to apply to different people in different ways. Hopefully this was something that helps you as you're going out and learning what strategy you're going to deploy in real estate and investing. Just to recap, you want to make sure that you don't do it all yourself. Find a team to work with, identify what your team needs to look like, and find those partners that really have goals aligned with your goals and give you an opportunity to have success. Secondly, avoid the ends of the market. So as you look at first a market to invest in, a city or area, also look at those sub-markets within that, that greater market, and avoid the high-end and low-end neighborhoods. We target very specific zip codes where we know this model works. And you need to do the same thing. You need to be an expert on the market. You need to play in the middle of the market, and you need to target those areas exclusively in order to have success with a cash flow investment. Number 3, renovating for wow factor. So don't look at it like your primary residence. Don't be emotionally attached to it. Understand that standards to get something rented may not be as high as standards for you where you want to live yourself, and be comfortable with that. So put the money on the renovation into the major big ticket items. Make the cosmetics acceptable, but don't go overboard. Focus on the return on your investment, and if you spend more money on something, is that going to get you any return coming back your direction? The fourth, assuming all markets work for cash flow. We talked about how our clients come from all over the world, all over the country. They all own properties in Jacksonville. We're blessed to be in this market. It's a great market for this model. Don't make the mistake of assuming that this model works everywhere. You may have to get out of your own backyard if you want to do cash flow rental properties as an investment option. And then lastly, dabbling in too many ventures out of the gate. Become an expert. Come up with a strategy. Don't worry about trying to know everything. You're better off being the best at one specific thing, and instead of being average or okay at many different things. So here's a client of ours that I'll leave you with a quote. Longtime client, and what he says really, I think, embodies what we offer and what we try to do for our clients. So he says, the JWB team has made it easy for me to run a passive real estate business while working and living out of town. I've purchased 3 properties from JWB, and I've referred tons of my friends to their program. So Tony, he has a full-time job. He lives in another part of the country. He doesn't have time to do this, and he loves the ability to earn passive income. He's bought multiple properties. He's referred friends and family. It's really how we've built our business, is by under-promising and over-delivering to our clients. They are happy. They buy more homes. They refer their friends and family to buy more homes. Here's a snapshot of our team. So we're about 30 strong, 35 strong now, always growing. We're all young and passionate and love being able to deliver for our clients. Again, we have everything here under one roof. So from the acquisition of the property to the rehab and construction of the property to the long-term management of the property, we handle all of that here. So again, I hope this was helpful. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day. I know everyone is busy, and if you do want to request a copy of this webinar, you can email us. That email address is info@jwbcompanies.com. You can visit our website, www.jwbrealestatecapital.com, and you can get a copy of our investment guide. But I would say the best thing you could do if you are interested or think you could potentially be interested in cash flow real estate is to give us a call. Our phone number there is 904-677-6777. So it's very, very easy to remember. But give us a call, and we'd be glad to answer any questions you have. Set up a time where you can talk with myself or one of our other account managers to discuss your goals and objectives and see if it's something where we can help you reach those goals. So I'm sure we will hear from all you guys soon. We'll do another webinar very soon. Again, thanks for listening and hope it was informative. Take care.